Chapter 5. Gil took quickly to his classes. When he wasn't in class, he often found a seat in the corner of the flask, where he could nurse a mug of cider and read. Singers sang and lutists strummed from the stage beside the hearth. Snatches of conversation from nearby tables washed over him, occasionally punctuated by a laugh or shout. He learned a great deal with each hour in the flask, both from his books and from overheard snippets of conversation. Everything would be perfect if Hammond and Millie joined him more often. They had not taken so well to the rhythm of classes. Millie's free time was consumed by blocks. There seemed to be a perpetual tournament waged on the green between classes, where students would cluster around boards to watch intently. Gil knew she was good by the whomping she'd given him. It wasn't until a boisterous girl at a nearby table started chatting that he realized how skilled Millie truly was. She was brilliant, knew my moves even before I did. Her dog loves the game too, watched every move he did. Within a few days, a rumor began circulating of a blocks player and her dog. The story changed each day. She could play blindfolded, or juggle 2 games at once. Then she could play blindfolded against 3 opponents, all while playing the lute. As her popularity swelled, Millie grew happier and more nervous. I'm glad people want to play blocks with me, she said on a rare night when her and Hammond could join him for dinner. But everyone's making a portrait from a sketch. I saw you play a blindfolded game, Hammond countered. 2 games, actually, at the same time. Millie couldn't help but grin. Hammond had also found a hobby, vanishing. Hazeltop was a large school, undoubtedly, but Gil had a difficult time finding Hammond after classes were over. He would disappear through the afternoon and most of the evening, reappearing late. At first, he was worried his friend was avoiding him, but Hammond's excitement at seeing him was apparent. When he returned to the flask, he joined Gil and relaxed over a few cups of cider and a warm plate. The first waves of homework had begun to crash. Gil did not mind this much, but he enjoyed commiserating over the new homework with Hammond. After this well had run dry, they invariably turned to stories. Good one, Gil said as Hammond finished the chanting Chandler. Hammond refilled their mugs. Isn't it better since I'm supposed to be writing an essay on the evolution of the Baronese tongue, huh? Come on then, time for one more. How about you finish the Hartscale tale? You left me at the best part, you know. You're a hammerhead, a girl droned from a nearby table. She was the carpentry girl with the long braid from Wondercraft. A short, pudgy boy sat with her. He tried sawing at his pork chop, but the task was beyond him. How should I have known it wasn't supposed to be a wheel? He asked, making carts and all. Wheels are round, she said. Hammond snorted, and there were chuckles from the nearby tables. The boy flushed. Master Ellery said I'm getting better. Sure are, handsome, a strong voice broke in. It belonged to an older enchanting student weaving through the tables. His robes were blinding blue. He clapped the carpentry boy on the shoulder, grinning broadly. Penny for the poor, if I were you. I'd learn a few enchantments for binding. Never need nails again. You'd be Master Eldy's favorite student. Master Ellery, the boy said, a grin spreading across his face. Absolutely, the older student said easily. If only you had an enchanter to teach you. The boy slouched. Then he looked up hopefully. Do you know any that could help me? A look of confusion flickered across the older student's face before his grin returned. You found one. I'd love to teach you a few spells. That sounds great. Absolutely, the enchanter said. A few coppers an hour, maybe a silver or 2. You won't be learning any spells for Master Horatio's blue book, but you'll get by. Top of the class within the month, I'd say. The enchanter left, a cunning look in his eye. Conversation flooded around them once more. A student, wearing the leathers of a smith, caught the boy's eye and shook his head slowly. Hammond was thoughtful. Never heard of the blue book. Anyway, back to your story. He leaned back in his chair and took an appreciative sip. It's the year of the dragon scale, if you listen to the yew tree. It might be worth knowing a bit about old stories. Gil smiled. The traveler had just thrown iron into the cauldron, right? Followed that elder to the cave and wanted to try his hand at alchemy. Hammond confirmed. There was an eager, hopeful look in his eye. What next? The question was tinder to any storyteller's fire. Excitement flushed through Gil, and he collected his thoughts. The traveler dropped a ring of iron into the cauldron and spoke the elder's word. Shadow began to rise from the cauldron like smoke. A villager found the traveler later that day, asleep beside the wooden pot. In the cauldron lay a scarred ring of iron. The man grew sick in the coming days. Soon he was confined to a bed. The village did not want to save him, since he had tried to steal their greatest secret. But there was one that would not let his sickness worsen, a woman named Heartscale. She brewed a potion, gave it to him, but he did not awaken. Days passed. She scavenged from the deep forest and made the strongest potion she could, but he slept on. He was fading quickly. She remembered a story, an old story. She traded with the Yael for one of its silver scales, and she went to the cave. The ring of iron still lay in the cauldron. The potion she crafted was like no other, and the traveler was healed. The village became Evervale, for while much of old knowledge faded, some could never be forgotten. Hammond was very quiet after the story. That night, he was still awake when Gil fell asleep. The following day brought Gil's first shift in the kitchens. He was very excited. His parents' bakery had been a place of smells and tastes, entertaining customers and stories. He ate breakfast in the flask. The 8th bell rang, and not knowing what to do, he walked across the dining room and through the kitchen door. A different world lived behind the door. He was greeted by a wave of clinking plates, scuffling boots, knives thudding into wood. Ovens and cabinetry lined the wall to his right. Servers raced around, scooping heaping plates from the counter and hurtling past him into the dining room. Bussers squeezed through the traffic with towers of plates or buckets of soapy water. Cooks stood around long tables in the center of the room, chopping vegetables, kneading dough, seasoning meat. Someone shouted over the din of the room, and 3 onions arced toward the voice. Everything was motion, except for Puriel Drayborn. The master of food stood near Gil, not far from the door. Master Drayborn paused the last of the servers hurrying past Gil. He examined the plate of sausages for several long, quiet moments before waving the boy on. He was thin but powerful. His face was that of a king, ruling a kingdom of pie crusts and tomatoes. Gil felt he should probably introduce himself, say he was ready for his first shift, but his throat had gone dry. He could work as a baker or chef with his experience. A busboy shouldered past Gil, holding a tub of dishes. "Watch it." Somehow Master Drayborn heard over the racket. His eyes fastened on Gil, and the master waved him forward. "Have you worked in a kitchen before?" "Yes, sir, Speak up, boy." Gil cleared his throat. "I worked in my parents' bakery. I love baking breads and rolls especially, but I could also—" "You'll be a washer," Master Drayborn pronounced, turning from Gil to watch over the kitchen. "You're small, but you'll keep up with the plates. Keep your water warm and soapy, understand?" "Sir, I'm not sure—" But Master Drayborn was already grabbing a passing busboy and pulling him toward Gil. "Wilkes, bring—" He turned a questioning eye toward Gil. "Gil, sir. Bring Gil back to Bunt. He's due for another scrubber." "Certainly, master," Wilkes said eagerly. "Come with me, Gil." Wilkes took Gil deeper into the kitchens, past the chef tables and the ovens. A group of tired students slouched on stools in the back of the kitchen. An old, huge cauldron sat between them, filled with soapy water. Beside them was a table piled high with plates, bowls, and silverware, all dirty and crusted with food. Wilkes handed Gil a rag, a little apologetically. "It's not so bad, I expect. If you impress Master Drayborn, he might get you moved somewhere else." Something was off. I expected at Hazeltop we would use magic. Pally-Pop's all-purpose cleaner would have these plates shining in no time. "Don't think Master Drayborn likes magic much," Wilkes said, turning toward an old man hidden among the scrubbers. "Bunt, this is Gil. Master Drayborn said he's supposed to help back here." Bunt was stooped and clean-shaven. with a wispy horseshoe around his head. He peered up and gave Gil a toothy grin. "Find yourself a stool, son. I like the oak ones myself," he said. Whatever fantasies of baking pies and kneading dough Gil had were ground away with each grimy plate he scoured. The water was hot at first, but his hands acclimated until they were only uncomfortable. While he was scrubbing at some petrified cheese, Wilkes and the other busters brought a half-dozen tubs. The scrubbers were quiet, all save Bunt. "Some more for you, old Bunt," Wilkes said, pushing another tub onto the table. "Business is good today," Bunt said easily, scratching at his plate. The cauldron was growing murky. Gil grew uneasy. He didn't think Master Drayborn wanted his dishes cleaned in dirty water. Bunt smiled. "Scrub tubs getting grubby, huh?" Gil nodded. Bunt pushed himself to his feet. "Would you give me a hand?" The cauldron was heavy, but he helped Bunt carry it to a nearby door leading outside. He led Gil to a small yard behind the flask, which had a pump, a fire, and a pit. As they teetered toward the pit, a foul, sour smell flooded Gil's nose. A haze of flies buzzed over the hole. "We'll set it on that stump. Tip it in," Bunt said. They shuffled the last few paces and lowered the cauldron onto the stump beside the pit. Here the acrid air was overwhelming, and his eyes watered. The whole was a marinade of blackening meat, mushy vegetables, cheeses, yellowing tallow. They poured out the cauldron. Cloudy water and bits of food sloshed down into the pit, dousing the bed of rot. Flies zipped down eagerly to inspect the fresh pickings. They carried the much lighter cauldron back to the pump. Bunt eased the rim under the spout and began pumping the single handle. Clean water gurgled into the cauldron. Gil frowned. "Is the water steaming?" "Sure looks that way, don't it?" Gil passed his hand through the stream. The water was very warm. "Why is it so warm? Shouldn't it be cold?" "Asked myself the same thing years ago," Bunt said. He was breathing heavily now, arms straining against the pump. "Here, let me finish," Gil said. Bunt stepped aside gratefully. "Thought about the pump many times. If you really raced my horse, I'd say it's probably pumping from the Silver Smoke Lake north of here. Can't imagine how someone ran a pipe all that way, though." Gil finished pumping. His arms were exhausted, and it felt like he had just pumped water many thousand feet. It took all his strength to carry the heavy cauldron with Bunt back to the kitchen. The work would have been monotonous and unpleasant if Bunt hadn't kept up a stream of chatter and far-fetched stories. The water would darken, and Gil would bring the cauldron out with Bunt. Dump, pump, carry, scrub. The scrubbers were given a lunch break in the afternoon, and then it was back to the cauldron. Gil had to work until the dinner dishes were done, which seemed quite a long ways away. The cooking slowed throughout the afternoon, but began to ramp up in preparation for dinner. Crates of potatoes and apples were brought up from the cellar, stew pots were filled, and pie crusts rolled out. The scrubbers found a reprieve during the lull before dinner. Gil was inspecting his wrinkled fingertips when Wilkes stopped by. "Master Drayborn wants me to show you something." He headed for the cellar. Gil was confused, but followed him. With each descending step, the air cooled and felt drier. A massive, round room opened from the stairs. The smell of old wood, dry dust, and soil enveloped Gil. A forest of shelves crowded most of the room, glass bottles glittering in the torchlight. Iron-bound barrels ringed the earthen walls. Wilkes led Gil along the outer aisle, passing a wooden crate. "How are you liking alchemy class?" The question caught Gil off guard. "Wonderful. I mean, it's magic, isn't it?" He stopped, remembering how Wilkes had stormed out of the first class. "How are you doing with it?" Wilkes's face darkened. "Wicks made me look like an idiot, didn't he? Just because I can't do magic?" "You can do magic," Gil said quickly. "You just need to keep trying. And I could help you with the homework if you want." "There's homework now, too?" Gil tried for a smile. "It's not too bad, just a few chapters of reading, but we could meet at the egg tomorrow." "Maybe," Wilkes said. He looked guilty for a moment before turning to the shelves. He selected 2 jars of peaches and passed them to Gil. Take these, and some onions, and some potatoes." He added a final bag of garlic cloves to Gil's heaping box. "That's everything I need from down here. Back upstairs, I guess." "When should we study tomorrow?" Gil asked, but Wokus was already climbing the steps.